What's up everyone, Dennis here with Refined Memories, and today we're going to take on this unique photography challenge right here in my own backyard. This is the field where if I don't have any other spectacular place to go, I'll come out here and I'll find things to photograph, or I'll fly my drones. And it might not look like much out here, but that's where the challenge comes into play. How can we turn this seemingly dull location into something that's captivating and interesting to photograph? Well, hang around and let's find out. Before we dive in, I brought my drone with me, so we're gonna do a little flyover and see what we're working with. So as you can see, it's nothing too spectacular. Just an old field. Used to be a bunch of trees that were here with a forest, and when they cut the timber down, this is what remains. Right now it's just a bunch of old weeds and basically deceased trees. So let's have a look around. And while there's nothing super interesting here, the whole part of this challenge is to figure out how can we make it interesting. What can we do to make the mundane captivating? When you find yourself out in not so appealing area or location, and you're looking for certain things to photograph, sometimes it's a good idea to just get up close and personal. And I'm talking about macro photography, which is where you get super close onto a subject, whether it be an insect or a leaf or anything with some texture that's interesting. You'd be quite surprised how you can bring out some really natural beauty in some of these objects. So I'm looking right here and I found this little pine cone. While it may not look like anything super special, when we get up close to it, we can really bring out some of that texture. So let's see what we can do with this. As we continue to explore our boring field out in the middle of nowhere, another thing to consider is different angles. For example, looking at this stump here, it's just a stump. It's nothing too crazy. It's kind of interesting. Maybe if you got up close, it's pretty interesting, but another way to make it even more interesting is to shoot it from a different angle. One that's not just what you would see every day. Like camera pointing straight at it, not that appealing. But what if we got low? We got really low and kind of pointed the camera up towards it. Maybe we could get something a little bit more interesting out of that. So let's see what we can do. And of course, there's always my favorite, landscape photography. Even in places as seemingly uninteresting as this place, usually you can make something happen with a beautiful shot of the landscape itself. For this particular shot, I kind of envision, like, there's a stump over here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a stump right over here. There's the cows enjoying the pasture in the background. There's these wonderful trees, and I'm hoping this hawk that I just saw a few minutes ago kind of flies back over here so I can get some shots of that too, because that would be pretty cool. But there's always something you can take from even the most boring of landscapes and you can make it something beautiful. I'm hoping we can capture those cows in the distance, and I think with that and the stump in the picture, it'll kind of help make the composition. So let's see what we can do. course, if the landscape doesn't quite cut it on its own, you can always make it just a little bit more interesting with a panoramic shot. So I think this is a great little area for a nice panoramic of the field and the landscape that we're looking at here. So let's see how that looks. Now another thing that we can do in order to create some interest in our subject when we're out in, a boring field or some other place that's similar to this, is we can do similarly to what I've done back here. You notice how the background is somewhat blurred out. That has to do with depth of field. That's another element of photography that we can play around with to make things a little more creative and a little more interesting. So for the next example, we're gonna try and play around with that idea, and we're gonna find a subject that we can photograph, and we're going to use depth of field as a means to make that subject a little more interesting, make it stand out a little bit better, and yeah, let's see what we can do. So as you can see, there's several different things you can do to make a somewhat boring location a little bit more interesting. There's always just something, whether it's a different angle, a different perspective, whether it's a different technique in your photograph, getting really close to the subject, just paying attention to those finer details. There's always something that kind of helps you make this same old place just a little bit different, a little bit more special. And just when you think you've captured everything, something amazing happens. This field may seem bare now, but with time, it transforms with the seasons. Even in this cold, bare season, it can become something quite beautiful. When it snows, that snow adds something magical to the environment. So if you can't get out to amazing locations all the time, no big deal. With a little patience, some creativity, you can still get some pretty amazing shots. All right, folks, that's a wrap on our Boring Field Photography Challenge. It's been an eye-opening experience discovering the beauty in what many might consider mundane. Reflecting on this challenge, I encourage you to look at your surroundings differently. You never know what hidden beauty you might uncover. Now here's the exciting part. I want you to take on this challenge too. If you're a photographer or have an interest in capturing nice, beautiful shots, I want you to take on this challenge. Go out, find beautiful things in boring places. Use the hashtag #RefinedChallenge and share your transformed photos on social media. I can't wait to see your creative spins on this challenge. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. If you've enjoyed the challenge, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, follow, like the page, do all of those great things. And I encourage you to stay tuned for more creative projects coming your way. Until next time, I'm Dennis with Refined Memories. Have a great day.